The local market closing more than 1/3% in the red. Banks largely pulling down the all share this afternoon. Owen, Nkomo, market analyst, joins us for more insight on what's been happening to the market. So, Owen, if you can hear me, the local market down today. Internationally, we had Brexit, then the rising COVID-19 cases. But sentiment still looks pretty good for equities, doesn't it?
No, look, it still does. And I think, if you look at global markets, these days when they fall, they're not falling by 2% plus. They're still falling by about 0.5% on average. The momentum is still there. Cheap money is still there as the drug that the stock markets have gotten used to over the sort of past 10 odd years since the global financial crisis. And I think as long as central banks continue to put money in the system, you will see stock markets continue to move higher or just maintaining the levels where they are.
And then, Owen, today we saw the reaction of the share price to the saga at Delta Property Fund. The share price sliding 30%, irregular payments and fraud at yet again another company. It's adding up to 46 million rand. Not looking great for corporate South Africa, is it?
No, it's not. It shows that South African boardrooms continue to be riled by mismanagement of funds, by, all this procurement irregularities. It smells of all the other corporates that we've seen, VBS, it smells of, Steinhoff, it smells of all the other companies that have been in the doldrums because of mismanaging their numbers or reporting the wrong things or, misbehaving from people that are leading that business. But this one is very interesting because there still seems to be a lot of information that is missing. We are only hearing so far from the people that are the incumbent managers of the company. We haven't heard from the guys who resigned and walked away from Delta to say this is our side of the story. So it remains a very tricky one for one to take a position in because you're not sure what is going to be reported by guys like Sandy there and the CEO and CFO who left the business at the same time as Sandy. But it just speaks down to corporate governance issues in the country being at the top of the responsibility levels that need to be managed in order for us to stop seeing this kind of stories coming through. Delta will certainly be one of those stocks that needs to be watched closely.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. So listen, what do you make of Standard Bank and its new coal-fired, or rather policy on funding coal-fired plants? It said it's not doing that anymore, but thermal coal funding continues. I guess, again, pressure on all lenders from the environmentalists on this one. What do you make of it?
Definitely. I mean, the issue of ESG globally is a big issue now. Investors are not just going to keep putting money into companies that are believed to be destroying the environment, into companies that are destroying the water and the air that we drink and breathe. So Standard Bank certainly also falling in line with those global requirements for people to start being very careful about what they finance. But obviously for Africa, it poses a lot of challenges because most of our, electricity still comes from the use of coal-fired stations. So it will be very interesting to see, what the future of new coal mines, looks like, given this new decision by Standard Bank. And I potentially think that the other banks might follow suit as well because, they're talking or they're getting money from the same pension funds that are giving them to invest. So I do anticipate that potentially other companies, other banks, rather, will start looking at funding of these projects, differently. But then that opens opportunities for the riskier guys, who have got their own private capital. Private equity guys can come in and play in the space and create a niche market.
All right, so Owen Nkomo from Inkunzi, thanks very much indeed for giving us your insights on the market developments today. Let's take a